Our first story takes place on a dark Halloween night at an old abandoned asylum turned into a haunted house attraction. The asylum, with its decaying walls and eerie history, was the perfect setting for a Halloween scare. The local townspeople had whispered of the horrors that had occurred there, patients subjected to cruel experiments, their screams echoing through the halls, but those stories only added to the allure. The asylum was decked out in Halloween decorations, with DIY Halloween projects creating a terrifying ambience. The Halloween soundtrack from 1978 played in the background, setting the mood as visitors lined up to enter the haunted house. The Halloween witch pot smoke machine mist maker filled the air with a dense, eerie fog, and the Halloween sounds of creaking doors and distant screams added to the atmosphere. Among the visitors was a group of thrill seekers, including Tom, who had always been fascinated by true horror stories and dark web horror tales. He had read countless scary Reddit stories about haunted places and was eager to experience the asylum's haunted house for himself. As they entered the asylum, the horror ambience was immediate. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. The haunted house was designed to scare, with actors dressed in gory costumes, jump scares at every corner, and rooms filled with disturbing imagery. But as the group ventured deeper into the asylum, they began to feel that something was off. The Halloween decorations seemed too real, the screams too genuine. The further they went, the more the line between attraction and reality blurred. Suddenly the Halloween music stopped, and the lights flickered ominously. The air grew colder, and the group felt a sense of unease settle over them. As they turned a corner, they saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was tall, its face obscured by shadows, but its presence was overwhelming. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. It just stood there, watching them. Tom's heart raced as he realized that this wasn't part of the haunted house. The horror ambience grew thicker, the air heavy with fear. The group tried to turn back, but the hallway behind them had disappeared, replaced by a solid wall. Panic set in as the figure began to move toward them, slowly, deliberately. The Halloween sounds of the haunted house were replaced by the distant echoes of screams and whispers. The group tried to flee, but the asylum seemed to twist and change around them, trapping them in a maze of horror. The figure drew closer, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The last thing Tom saw before everything went black was the figure's twisted grin, a smile filled with pure evil. The next morning, the asylum was found empty, with no signs of the haunted house attraction or the visitors who had entered it. The asylum was sealed off, becoming the subject of countless paranormal investigations and analog horror reactions, but no one could explain the horrors that had taken place within its walls. Our second story takes place at a Halloween haunted house known as the House of Dolls. The attraction was famous for its elaborate Halloween decorations, with life-size dolls dressed in vintage clothing filling every room. The Halloween playlist was filled with eerie Halloween jazz, and the Halloween decorations were meticulously crafted to create a chilling ambience. The house was a favorite among horror enthusiasts who flocked to it every Halloween night to experience the terror within. One Halloween night, a group of friends decided to visit the House of Dolls. Among them was Lisa, a fan of Batman the Long, Halloween and analog horror films. She had heard stories about the house, true scary stories of people who had entered and never returned, but she dismissed them as urban legends. As they entered the house, the horror ambient was immediate. The air was thick with a sense of unease, and the dolls seemed to watch them with unblinking eyes. The Halloween sounds of creaking floors and distant whispers echoed through the halls, and the Halloween decorations cast long, eerie shadows on the walls. The haunted house was designed to scare, with each room filled with dolls posed in disturbing scenes. But as the friends ventured deeper into the house, they began to feel that something was wrong. The dolls seemed to move on their own, their heads turning to follow them as they passed. The further they went, the more the house seemed to come alive. Suddenly, the Halloween playlist stopped, and the lights flickered. The dolls' eyes glowed with a sinister light, and the air grew cold. The friends felt a sense of dread settle over them as they realized they were not alone. The dolls began to move, their once lifeless bodies now animated by some unseen force. The friends tried to leave, but the doors were locked, trapping them inside. The horror ambience grew thicker, the air heavy with fear. The dolls closed in around them, their eyes gleaming with malevolence. Lisa's heart raced as she realized they were being hunted by the very dolls they had come to see. The last thing Lisa saw before everything went black was the dolls' twisted smiles, their porcelain faces cracking as they reached out to claim their souls. The next morning, the House of Dolls was found empty, with no signs of the friends who had entered it. The attraction was closed down and the dolls were removed. But the house remains a place of fear and mystery to this day, inspiring countless Reddit horror stories and paranormal investigations. Our final story takes place at a travelling Halloween carnival that set up shop in a small town. The carnival was famous for its haunted house attraction, a rickety old building filled with animatronics, jump scares and disturbing imagery. The Halloween decorations were top-notch, with a Halloween witch pot smoke machine mist maker adding to the eerie atmosphere. The Halloween playlist included Halloween chiptune and Halloween ASMR, creating the perfect ambience for a night of scares. The haunted house was the carnival's main attraction, drawing in crowds with promises of thrills and chills. But there was something else about the haunted house, something dark and malevolent that the carnival owners didn't talk about. The house was said to be cursed, and those who entered it were never the same. One Halloween night, a group of teenagers decided to visit the carnival. Among them was Josh, a fan of dark web horror stories and movie recap horror videos. He had heard the rumors about the haunted house, but he was eager to see if the stories were true. As they entered the haunted house, the horror ambient was immediate. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and the Halloween decorations seemed to come to life. The animatronics moved with an eerie fluidity, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The Halloween sounds of creaking floors and distant screams echoed through the halls, adding to the atmosphere of terror. The haunted house was designed to scare, with each room filled with disturbing scenes and jump scares. But as the teenagers ventured deeper into the house, they began to feel that something was wrong. The animatronics seemed too real, the screams too genuine. The further they went, the more the line between attraction and reality blurred. Suddenly, the Halloween playlist stopped and the lights flickered. The air grew colder, and the teenagers felt a sense of unease settle over them. As they turned a corner, they saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was tall, its face obscured by shadows, but its presence was overwhelming. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. It just stood there watching them. Josh's heart raced as he realized that this wasn't part of the haunted house. The horror ambience grew thicker, the air heavy with fear. The group tried to turn back, but the hallway behind them had disappeared, replaced by a solid wall. Panic set in as the figure began to move toward them, slowly, deliberately. The Halloween sounds of the haunted house were replaced by the distant echoes of screams and whispers. The teenagers tried to flee, but the house seemed to twist and change around them, trapping them in a maze of horror. The figure drew closer, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The last thing Josh saw before everything went black was the figure's twisted grin, a smile filled with pure evil. The next morning, the haunted house was found empty, with no signs of the carnival or the visitors who had entered it. The haunted house was dismantled, and the carnival moved on. But the curse of the carnival remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the thrills of Halloween night.